We are now 2 days removed from October 3rd, the day of the bathroom insurrection against Senator Sinema, a day that will live in infamy. It was an assault on our democracy and our very way of life. It wouldn't be too far to say that it was the worst attack on our nation ever, like Pearl Harbor and 9/11 combined twice. I'll always remember where I was when it happened, and I fear that I'll never be the same. I almost died that day. At least this is what would be said about the incident if it had been right-wing activists harassing a lawmaker in the bathroom. But left-wing activists are judged on a different scale, and the measurement on that scale, the measurements are quite simple to read. It goes like this. Whatever the left-wing activist does is okay. They must have had a good reason to do it. So when they stalked Senator Sinema in a restroom, filmed her as she went into the bathroom stall, and yelled at her for not supporting Biden's agenda, it was shrugged off by Biden himself. Here is Biden in a press conference yesterday responding to the incident and not exactly condemning it. Listen.
Mr. President, you're talking about how you have 48 Democratic votes right now. The other two have been pressured over the weekend by activists. Joe Manchin had people on kayaks show up to his boat to yell at him. Senator Sinema last night was chased into a restroom. Do you think that those tactics are crossing a line?
I don't think they're appropriate tactics, but it happens to everybody. From the only people it doesn't happen to are people who have Secret Service standing around them. It's part of the process.
So, one thing I take from that is, hey, Senator Sinema doesn't have Secret Service protection standing around her. Hint, hint. It's all just part of the process, he says. It happens to everybody. I mean, I would wonder who else has it happened to. Really, everybody gets filmed in bathrooms? Who else? Maybe I shouldn't be surprised that the creepy perv Biden thinks filming women in restrooms is part of the process, although I'd hate to know what kind of process he's referring to exactly. In fact, the left seems in general to have a thing for accosting women in restrooms. 1 minute they're defending a male sex predator who exposed his erect penis to women and children in the Wee Spa locker room, and the next they're cheering illegal alien activists for confronting a senator while she's on the toilet. These people just really don't think women should have privacy in the bathroom at all. They don't believe that. And not just in the bathroom either is she being confronted. Sinema over the last few days has been harassed at her home, in the airport, on a plane. Everywhere she goes now, they follow and scream at her because she doesn't fully agree with Biden's spending proposals. The feminist website Jezebel published a piece yesterday directly calling for more harassment of the senator in the bathroom in a piece titled "Absolutely Bully Kristen Sinema Outside of her bathroom stall." Jezebel writer Ashley Reese waves off the criticism of these intimidation tactics as pearl clutching and says that it was, quote, just a few constituents following their representative into a large bathroom to air their grievances. Oh, well, as long as the bathroom was large, then never mind. Jezebel represents the view of many on the left, including in the media. Kirsten Powers, CNN contributor, tweeted on Monday, referring to one of the illegal alien harassers who said that her grandparents had been deported. She said, which is worse, your grandparents being deported or being followed into a bathroom because you refuse to stop and listen by people desperate for your help? This is not a trick question. Oh, I can answer that. Being followed into the bathroom and filmed is worse. Okay, that's illegal behavior. Deporting illegal aliens, on the other hand, is law enforcement. So in one case, the law is being broken, and in the other, it's being enforced. So not a trick question, and also not a hard answer. But as we've seen, the left views the law as a rather blurry and subjective line, and they have good reason to see it that way. I mean, if they're acting on behalf of their ideology, they know that they're empowered to do basically whatever they want. They can film senators in the bathroom. They can show up with bullhorns to people's homes in the middle of the night. They can riot. They can loot. They can assault police officers. They can burn police stations to the ground. They can wage a months-long assault on a federal courthouse. They can stop traffic. They can harass and assault random pedestrians and people in vehicles. They're able to do all of this with rarely any penalty. And meanwhile, in the midst of all of it, the FBI has now officially been put on the case of conservative parents who say mean things to school board members. Attorney General Merrick Garland on Monday, while left-wing activists and illegal aliens were stalking a U.S. senator across the country, he issued a memo not about that, but rather directing the FBI to protect school boards from imaginary threats. The memo says, and I'll read it, it says, In recent months, there's been a disturbing spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school board administrators, board members, teachers, and staff who participate in the vital work of running our nation's public schools. While spirited debate about policy matters is protected under our Constitution, that protection does not extend to threats of violence or efforts to intimidate individuals based on their views. Threats against public servants are not only illegal, they run counter to our nation's core values. Those who dedicate their time and energy to ensuring that our children receive a proper education in a safe environment deserve to be able to do their work without fear for their safety. The department takes these incidents seriously and is committed to using its authority and resources to discourage these threats, identify them when they occur, and prosecute them when appropriate. In the coming days, the department will announce a series of measures designed to address the rise in criminal conduct directed towards school personnel. Coordination and partnership with local law enforcement is critical to implementing these measures for the benefit of our nation's nearly 14,000 public school districts. To this end, I am directing the FBI, working with each United States attorney, to convene meetings with federal, state, local, and territorial leaders in each federal judicial district within 30 days of this issuance of the memo. These meetings will facilitate the discussion of strategies for addressing threats against school board administrators, board members, teachers, and will open dedicated lines of communication for threat reporting, assessment, and response. Now, just to be perfectly clear, there has been no violence against school board members at all. The very small number of violent incidents at meetings have been brief scuffles between protesters where nobody got hurt. And that's on both sides, okay? People on both sides of an issue show up, the conversation gets a little bit heated, and then there's a scuffle and no one really gets hurt. As for threats and intimidation, which is the main thing he's focusing on, I've been at some of these meetings where threats and intimidation allegedly happened. I mean, I've been at the meetings where the media reports, there was threats and intimidation. I've also watched videos of other meetings where it supposedly occurred, and I have heard very little of anything that could be accurately described that way. Mostly, I've heard angry parents expressing their point of view, sometimes raising their voice, God forbid, but that's as far as it goes. And yet we're supposed to believe that parents getting a little heated during a school board meeting is some kind of national security threat that requires a federal law enforcement response. The FBI has done nothing at all in response to BLM and Antifa rioters who openly harass and intimidate law enforcement and civilians, often do much worse than that. But now they mobilize against parents at school boards. As someone who's been accused of being, one of the ringleaders of this school board movement, I expect I'll probably be on the FBI most wanted list by the end of the week. And it's clear what this is really about. The FBI doesn't care about the harassment of public officials, not generally anyway. If they did, the feds would be tracking down cinema's harassers and shipping their butts back to Mexico. I mean, they are illegal aliens, as they confessed. No, for all their talk about intimidation, this itself, what the FBI is doing, is an intimidation tactic. This is about intimidating parents, regular working class people who've had the gall, the nerve to speak up against the system's indoctrination and abuse of their children. The public school system is the factory, it's the assembly line where kids are shuffled along and they're assembled and packaged in the way the state wants in order to make them ideologically compliant vassals. But this grassroots, non-violent uprising of parents at school boards has threatened that system and exposed it, and the powers that be cannot allow it. What this means, first of all, is that the law is dead in this country. Now, that's not hyperbole. It's dead. And it's been the case for quite some time. When federal law enforcement is mobilized against middle-class parents who are upset at their school board members, that's a sign, one of the more glaring signs, but certainly not the only one, that there's no higher law in this country beyond the whims and desires of the elites. The law is, don't upset or interfere with them. That's the only law. They recognize no other. But it also means, on the positive side, that our work in these school board meetings is having an effect. It's making a difference. Which means now is the time to double down, not back down. That means keep showing up, keep speaking out. And I can tell you that's exactly what I'll be doing.
Listen, hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.